What if I told you the worst team in the Eastern Conference just became its most dangerous?
No super team.
No headline-grabbing trades.
No instant title favorites walking through the door.
Just belief, grit, discipline, and a group of players who refuse to accept the label placed on them.
This is the Detroit Pistons' unbelievable rise.
For years, the Pistons were the forgotten franchise of the East.
A team fans barely talked about unless the conversation involved draft odds or rebuilding timelines.
A logo people scrolled past in the standings.
Season after season, Detroit lived at the bottom of the conference. Losses stacked up.
Confidence drained. Coaching changes came and went.
Young players showed flashes, but flashes don't win games.
The Pistons became synonymous with next year.
And while loyal fans stayed patient, the rest of the basketball world moved on.
Then this season arrived, and everything changed.
Against all logic, projections, and preseason predictions, the Detroit Pistons didn't just take a step forward. They didn't sneak into playoff conversations.
They didn't hover around mediocrity. They climbed all the way to the top of the Eastern Conference.
And they didn't do it quietly. They did it by beating contenders,
By stealing road games. By turning tight fourth quarters into defining moments. So how did a team written off as dead last pull off one of the most shocking turnarounds in recent NBA history? How did Detroit go from worst to first in a conference filled with star power, experience, and expectations? The answer isn't simple, but it is powerful. It starts with identity. Coming into the season, expectations were brutally low. Detroit had one of the youngest rosters in the league.
their offensive firepower was questioned.
Their shooting was doubted. And injuries were expected to derail progress before it ever began. Analysts said the Pistons were still years away. Vegas odds showed no faith. Even optimistic fans talked more about development than winning. But inside that locker room, the conversation was very different. From day one, this team didn't play like a group hoping to improve. They played like a group expecting to compete. The Pistons embraced a clear identity: defense, effort, and togetherness. They weren't trying to win shootouts every night. They weren't chasing highlight plays. They weren't relying on one player to save them. Instead, they committed to making every game uncomfortable for their opponents. Passing lanes closed. Drives were met with bodies. Rebounds became battles. Loose balls became statements. Detroit turned defense into momentum. Momentum into confidence. And confidence into wins. Slowly, something powerful began to build. At the center of this rise was the young core, finally taking a real leap. Not just statistically, but mentally. Players who once looked tentative began playing with authority. Mistakes turned into learning moments. Pressure situations became chances to prove something. Night after night, Detroit's young stars stepped up. Not always with explosive scoring, but with smart decisions, timely baskets, and defensive stops that shifted games. They learned how to manage the pace, how to read the moment, how to close. And learning how to close games is often the biggest difference between losing teams and winning ones. But the path wasn't smooth. Injuries hit. Rotations changed. Scoring droughts tested patience and discipline. For many teams, this would have been the breaking point. A reason to fall back into old habits. An excuse to say, we're still developing. Detroit refused. When scoring became difficult, the defense tightened. When players went down, others stepped forward. When momentum shifted, the response was immediate. This season didn't belong to one hero. It belonged to everyone. Role players didn't just fill minutes, they changed games. Bench units didn't just survive, they extended leads. Every player who stepped on the floor knew exactly what was expected. Some nights, it was hustle plays that turned the tide. Other nights, it was timely shooting or clutch free throws.
And often, it was simply locking down an opposing star when it mattered most.
Detroit didn't rely on one voice.
They relied on trust.
Behind the scenes, coaching played a massive role in this transformation. The system wasn't flashy, but it was intentional. Players were put in positions to succeed. Strengths were emphasized. Weaknesses were protected.
More importantly, accountability became the standard.
Missed rotations were corrected.
Effort lapses were addressed.
Success was earned, not given.
And as wins piled up, trust grew stronger.
The Pistons didn't just start winning, they started believing.
Slowly, the league took notice.
At first, it was a nice early season story.
Then it became they're playing hard.
Then analysts started saying they might be legit.
And before anyone realized it, Detroit was sitting at the top of the Eastern Conference.
Suddenly, every game against the Pistons mattered.
Opponents stopped overlooking them.
Scouting reports grew thicker.
Defensive game plans became more complex. The respect was real.
But the Pistons didn't flinch.
They thrived in close games.
They executed late. They stayed composed when the pressure peaked. This team learned how to win ugly, and in the NBA, that skill is priceless. They won low-scoring battles. They won grinded-out matchups. They won games where nothing came easy.
And those are the wins that define contenders.
What truly separates this Piston squad is resilience.
When they lost, they responded.
When momentum swung, they answered.
When doubt crept in, they shut it down with effort.
They didn't talk like underdogs.
They didn't play like a fluke.
They played like a team that belonged.
This wasn't luck. This wasn't a hot shooting stretch.
This wasn't a favorable schedule.
This was a cultural shift.
From the front office to the bench, Detroit committed to a new standard. One built on discipline, patience, and belief in the process. The Pistons stopped chasing shortcuts. They stopped measuring success by headlines. They focused on daily habits, effort, communication, and execution. And now the results speak for themselves. This rise isn't just impressive because of where Detroit is now. It's impressive because of where they came from. From a franchise searching for direction to a team setting the pace in the East. From rebuilding quietly to competing loudly. This season has become a reminder of why basketball is more than star names and highlight reels. Why chemistry matters. Why defense still wins championships. Why belief can change everything. Because sometimes the most powerful stories aren't about super teams or MVP candidates. They're about teams that refuse to accept failure. Teams that grow together. Teams that turn doubt into fuel.
Now comes the biggest test.
Sustaining success. The Eastern Conference won't sit back. Adjustments will come. Opponents will respond. Pressure will increase. The Pistons will be targeted every night. And that's where legacies are built. Is this just a magical season? Or is this the beginning of something much bigger in Detroit? Are the Pistons legitimate contenders ready to stay on top?
Or is the league about to challenge them harder than ever before?
One thing is undeniable. The Detroit Pistons are no longer an afterthought. They are no longer rebuilding in silence. They are no longer waiting for permission to compete. They are here. They are dangerous. And they've already shocked the basketball world. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more NBA breakdowns, and turn on notifications so you never missed what's next. And now I want to hear from you. Are the Pistons real contenders? Or is this run too good to last? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.